Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim, and thank you all so much for all the love and support. Hope you all are doing great. Today, we'll be talking something very important, and it's about this colored man who actually came out to tell us the truth. And you all already know it when they come out to say that they are telling you the truth. It means that it's all lies and all that. And then we are also going to talk about something that I really found so interesting that about slavery and modern work culture. And then that reminds me about how colored people think that black people are built to do some hard labors, and they are not intellectually smart. And I am asking you all who actually told you all that we were built for hard labors. We were not built for hard labors. We were built for soft life, and soft jobs. And so that also reminds me about how slavery has really like penetrated into everything, because this workforce they are talking about, like slavery and modern work culture, then that reminds me about how black people, the same black people, they say that they are not intellectually smart to do some certain things or to work in some certain places or to be the manager or something. How the same people are the people that are training their subordinates, and when they train their subordinates, the subordinates ends up earning higher than the person that trained them. And tell me, where does that even happen? You all already know. You know what? Let me roll the clip.
In her amazing book, Rest is Resistance, Tricia Hershey says, capitalism began on plantations. And I want to talk a little bit about how slavery impacts our modern day work culture and modern day work environments. Now, recently on my page, I've been talking about black women and the impact of workplaces on our health across sectors. I talked about Dr. Candia Bailey and the tragic truth that she took her own life due to workplace bullying and harassment. I talked about Dr. Epps and her untimely passing as the president of Temple University, and how many people feel that her passing was a result of chronic work stress. And what's very tragic about her story is when Dr. Epps passed away, she passed away on stage at an event. And that event continued after her passing. And it made me think about how we treat black bodies as chattel. Chattel, of course, is a term that references chattel slavery. The way black bodies are treated as sources of labor. The way black bodies are commodified, but not treated as human. Now, as the Boston Review highlights, there's a historical connection between modern day management styles and slavery. And something they highlight is that in the early 20th century, a type of management emerged called scientific management. And the cornerstone of this type of management was the truth that managers had a high level of control over workers' lives. They would follow them around the factory almost like an overseer. They would stand over workers who fell or dropped something with a stopwatch as a way to threaten them with time, to kind of show them that I own your time and I own your body. Now, part of scientific management is the task and bonus system, and we still see this today. And the task and bonus system comes directly from slavery. During slavery, enslaved black people were given bonuses if they went above whatever their work quota was for that day. And we see this in many jobs still today, that when workers go above a certain quota, they're given a bonus. But as this article highlights, that is a way to dangle the carrot, and it's often a way to incentivize workers to work beyond what is good and humane for their bodies. I highlight all of this because when I see stories about how black women in particular are treated at work, or how black folks in particular are treated at work, whether it's through micromanaging, whether it's being asked to do twice as much for half as many rewards, whether it's being asked to do more work without an increase of job title, without an increase in pay, I see this directly mapping onto slavery. The idea that within work environments, black bodies are supposed to do whatever is asked of them, without there being a recognition of black skill or talent, and without there being a recognition of black humanity, the idea that black bodies actually have limitations. I believe in workplaces we need to start decolonizing how we manage and engage with people. And I have some questions for work environments to start to think about this process. Number one is, what is the connection between management and power in your organizations? How are you defining management? And what is kind of the standard or status quo that you're setting for how managers engage with direct reports? Number two, whose labor is undervalued and undercompensated, and what does that tell you about how dynamics of power and privilege are working within your environment? And number three, do you see skewed workload distribution across lines of identity? For example, are women doing more labor in your work environment than men? Are black people and people of color doing more work in your environment than white folks? Looking at how workload is distributed is a great way to see where there's dynamics of privilege, power, and inequality within your work environment. And thanks so much for watching. My name is Ciara. I'm a DEI consultant and a theologian, so follow me for more content like this. Tricia Hershey says, capitalism began on plantations.
You want to know the reason for enslavement and how it ties into both employment and ableism? Many of the original enslavers cited the idea that black people had bodies built for labor, but simultaneously did not have the intellect to be able to profit from said labor. And in fact, enslavement was good for them because otherwise they would have nothing else to do with their lives, right? Essentially, enslavers were citing that black people had intellectual disabilities and that free labor was good for them because it gave them purpose. And this actively ties into sub-minimum wages for disabled people. You know how in like over half of US states, it's completely legal to pay disabled people below the minimum wage? And how for the first time in human history, probably within our lifetime, we're going to see the first trillionaire, right? Because the super wealthy do, and for the most part always have believed that people less than them are the ones that are to labor, but don't necessarily have the intellect to profit.
Here's the truth about diversity in 60 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to see is about to be utterly fucking hilarious. But after you're done laughing, let it serve as a reminder to always read the sources these people are talking about. With that being said, I'm about to eat through your shit. Let's get busy.
First, what does the data say? Well, Harvard professor Robert Putnam conducted the largest study ever done on the topic, and here's what he found.
The greater the diversity in a community, the fewer people vote and the less they volunteer. In the most diverse communities, neighbors trust one another about half as much as they do in the most homogenous settings.
That might be the quickest L of all time. Real quick, click off this video and go Google Robert Putnam Diversity Study. What you'll find is that this article pops up before you scroll down and find the actual study. This article here in Scientific American covers a re-examination of the Putnam study that was conducted in 2015, seeing as the original study was conducted in 2007. The authors of this paper examined the exact same data set that Putnam used in his study, and what you just conveniently left out is that when it comes to diversity, most of the distrust is expressed by whites who feel uncomfortable living amongst racial minorities. In other words, greater distrust may stem from prejudice rather than from diversity. In other words, if there's a downside to diversity, it has less to do with the behavior of racial minorities and more to do with how whites feel when living amongst non-whites. Another problem they found was that Putnam pulled results from a survey that asked people, in general, would you say most people can be trusted or that you can't be too careful in dealing with people? Even though past research suggests that black people and Hispanic people on average have less trusting attitudes than white people do. Meaning that black people and Hispanic people will have lower trust, but for reasons that have nothing to do with the degree of diversity in a community. Another problem they found is that diverse communities tend to be going through demographic change due to gentrification or white flight, meaning that instability could be a reason for lower trust and not diversity itself. So your truth about diversity begins with a 2007 study that's been refuted for 8 years now. Oh, but it gets worse. Continue.
Now, we really don't even need a study to see this. For example, the most diverse city in the world, Miami, has the lowest volunteering rates in America, and the least diverse states have the highest volunteering rates.
Now, I was gonna get on you for getting this source from Fox News, because of course you did. But would you imagine my shock when I find this? If you read up top, that's the exact paragraph that he clipped in the picture in his video. But if you read one paragraph lower, you would have seen that it says Boston, for example, has the highest informal helping rate of 57.9%, followed by the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, then Chicago, then New York, then Los Angeles, then Atlanta. So if diversity means less volunteering, why are some of the most diverse metropolitan areas in the entire nation some of the most volunteering? I was just gonna say correlation doesn't equal causation, but this is literally in the article. You have no fucking evidence that diversity is the reason why Miami doesn't volunteer enough, and you have no fucking evidence that lack of diversity is the reason why states like Iowa volunteer a lot. You're just saying things, but oh wait, it gets worse.
And corporations are well aware that diversity prevents cohesion. Leaked documents from Amazon reveal that workforces with the most diversity are the least likely to form unions. Diversity protects corporate profits, and the corporations know this. So is that why they push for diversity so much?
Level 1, I wanted to find where you got this source, so I googled it. Turns out you got it from Liberation Information, in an article that literally says this should give you a clue as to why our woke capitalist rulers are so eager to preach the mantra of diversity. And by the way, this source is a fucking questionable source with a far-right bias and low factual reporting. Level 2, I went and found some credible sources about what you're talking about. You're using a heat map that utilized over 24 different metrics to determine the likelihood of a Whole Foods store becoming unionized. One of these metrics is diversity index, and it found that stores at higher risk of unionizing tended to have lower diversity. So again, you literally have no fucking evidence that diversity caused this, so I went and tried to find you some. This study takes a look at nearly 7,000 organizing drives for unions that were launched between 1999 and 2008. The study discusses that how the little work that has been done in this field has two major limitations. One being that the literature on black people in organized labor is incredibly dated outdated or historical. And the other one is that too much focus is put on trust and solidarity among workers rather than other organizational factors. And focusing on that assumes that diversity matters the most when union representation elections are being held, which ignores the fact that employers like Amazon have been taking increased steps to fight union organization campaigns in general, which means that many organizing drives are decided before workers even get to express their preference. So this study examined more than just whether or not they won representation elections, but they also examined whether or not they actually went through with elections before dropping out or withdrawing their petitions. It found that work groups that win union representation are less racially diverse, but it also finds that more diverse work groups are actually more likely to vote for unionization, but they're more likely to end in withdrawal. It also found that certain employer actions influence the likelihood of a withdrawal. And here's the kicker. Employers are more likely to use unfair labor practices to intimidate and fire employees for their union activity when a work group is more racially diverse. So yeah, more diverse workforces are less likely to unionize, but they're more likely to actually vote for unionization and not make it through because a corporation is doing illegal shit to stop them. Most of this was me reading your sources. I'd much rather you just come out and say you don't like minorities as opposed to dressing it up in thinly disguised anti-capitalism bullshit. That's so thinly disguised that one of your own sources was questionable at best. The fact that you just conveniently missed all of that speaks volumes to the message you're trying to push. But I guess it doesn't take a lot of work to be comically wrong.
So this is all I got from the stitches, and trust me, there are some things you hear and you ask yourself, what the hell is this? Like, for real. Now they say black bodies are good for labor, like some hard labor, and they are not intellectually smart. Man, I haven't heard this before. And seeing this right now, like, tells me a lot of things, or kind of like, reminds me some certain things, because there are some certain things you see or you hear, you probably cannot figure it out, but like, but there are some things like, you probably learn later and you can like, put all that together and can figure that out. I never knew people are saying this. I never knew that they are saying this about black people. And I have seen so many black people, I mean, in offices, you all know how educated black women, black people are. And then you see black people in offices having great roles, like, good, how do I say that? Good positions at work. And what they do is they use their intelligence to build themselves up, right? At like example, when a black person is maybe a manager or heading a place at work, and you see them training people, and eventually the people they train, I mean, like you are as a black person is training a colored person, and the colored person you train start earning more than you. I know you all can relate to this. I know you all already have seen this happening. And I am asking myself, but I thought they said we are not smart. But the same people that they said that they are not smart are the ones making it happen for you people. Make this make sense. Make this make sense. Because it is not making sense. So it is more like they are benefiting so much because they see able-bodied people and all that, black people, they can do top jobs and they are not paying them what they are supposed to be paid and all that over their other counterpart and the rest of it. Man, like, just end it all because I don't see how this is happening. And I have had so many people say that, like, I remember sometime that I made a video whereby a black woman was very mad and like, she was not real, like she was like, sharing her frustration, how a job she is headed as a manager and how she has been able to train so many people to the extent that the people she trained ended up taking her own position or ended up earning way better than she is. And then they still come back to gaslight themselves, saying that black people are not smart. I see who the smart people are, and I know who the smart people are. I know the ones that are not smart. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.